Let's go.
What a lovely day!
Andy, there's a whole world out there. Jump in.
Can you dig it?
Yeah.
You must always pay strict attention.
I was just completely enamored by it the entire time.
Dude, he did not have to go that hard.
I know, man. Isn't it wild?
The Jared Cast.
So it begins.
Good morning to you, too. Welcome to the Jared Cast. Hello, hi, audience, folks from around the globe, hopefully, I don't know. Maybe you're in Norway listening to this. Maybe I'll promote this Instagram post in Norway. We'll see what
Just
happens.
Norway. Let's just try to be famous in Norway.
I don't know, man. I don't know. They probably don't even watch movies like this. They're like, haha, those sucker Americans. Watch all that fancy shit. We're enjoying ourselves here with our, I don't know.
They're just watching Endgame dubbed.
Oh, no. Hello, hi. My name is Jared. Jared Ankanan. With me is Jared Lombardo. How are you doing today, Jared?
I am good. Sleepy as always.
Woo.
But potentially for the last time, I am now unemployed. So you might get a more upbeat Jared next week. We will see. But I'm doing good. I'm having a good time. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I am employed, but I'm employed by a small business, so I have the same amount of money.
Fucking rad small business.
It's a rad small business, but I have the same amount of money as someone who's unemployed.
Yeah, maybe even less. I still got DoorDash in my pocket.
Yeah. No. I don't want to shit on my. But yeah. We're here at the Jared Cast, ready to talk about some movies. We're on the late train for this one, but I'm still excited to talk about it because I have some thoughts, I have some feelings about the worst person in the world.
Yeah, we're talking about me today.
Or me, or maybe it's all of us. Maybe it's all millennials. I don't know. But yeah, the latest film by Joachim.
Joachim. I heard Joachim.
Okay.
Which is the best way to pronounce it, in my opinion.
It is the best way, but there was a guy who used to be forward on the Bulls, on the Chicago Bulls, and his name was Joachim Noah. So it always sounds like Joachim Trier, even though I know that's probably not how they pronounce it.
I mean, roll with it. I don't give a shit. He's not listening, so.
Joachim Trier, directed this movie and kind of took Cannes by storm, and brought out a lot of hype, in award season as well. A movie by Neon, and a lot of our friends like this as well. I see a lot of people posting about it. So yeah, I'm excited to talk about a movie that kind of deals with relationships in a unique way. Yeah, but before that, we got a fun little top five, a very topical top five. Finally, another topical top five.
Yeah, we like to mix it up. Sometimes we give you the topical. Sometimes we just talk about what animals we want to eat for movies.
I love that you're still not over that.
We should do a part 2 of that. That was a good one. That would be funny next week to make a guest do. That would be fun. Yeah, we got a topical top 5. I think there is 4 breakups in this movie, if I remember right. And so we're talking breakup scenes. We're going to give you our top 5 favorite breakup scenes in any movie, any TV show. If you're feeling spicy and wanted to go that route, you're welcome to. And I'm excited. I got a good list, and I'm sure you got a good list because your list always kind of shits on mine. So why don't I just get... It is competitive now, and the skills are nigh. Why don't you hit me with your number 5, though?
For sure. My number
No, number
5.
5, not 4.
Stupid. My number 5 is from a movie I don't really like that much, but it's a classic.
A good
Um,
start.
it's a classic. It's the last scene in the movie. So, spoiler alert for a movie that came out in 1934, I think.
Oh,
Um,
shit.
let me check. 1939.
Pause for IMDb. Okay.
It came out in 1939. But yeah, no greater smartass came out of the 30s than Clark Gable, and I
Damn.
love this scene. No one else could have played Rhett Butler the way he could have, and no one else could have played Scarlett the way that Vivian Leigh could have. Even though Gone with the Wind is like, I go back and forth on it. Like sometimes I'm like, this is great, and sometimes I'm like, this sucks. Um, uh, there's there's a scene at the end where he finally has had enough of her shit, and she's like, "You can't leave me. I don't want to be alone." And he's like, "Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn." And it's on top of everybody's list as one of the best quotes in the history of cinema. He walks
Yeah.
out into the fog. It's cool. It's cool, man. I like it a lot.
Yeah, it is. It is delightful, and I'm a sucker for anything Clark Gable. Narrowly missed my list.
Yeah.
I considered, but I just couldn't bring myself to do it. Honestly, I was like, it deserves the spot, but like,
Yeah.
I don't know, But an excellent pick. I'm glad it got its way in here because it's definitely deserved.
Yes.
My number 5 is, I think, kind of a sleeper hit. I think it's one that gets zero clout, but it should. It's a newer movie and a fantastic movie. One of my favorite movies of the 2010s, maybe even top 3. And that's Whiplash.
Ooh.
The narcissistic ass breakup where he's just like basically says, I'm gonna be great, you're gonna be nothing, and so I physically can't pay attention to you at all.
Yeah.
It's one of the most cold, selfish, just like egotistical things. And the way they hold on her the whole time is
Yeah.
fantastic. Because you're just with her. You're like, fuck this piece of shit. And I love it. And I think it deserves more praise. So it's my number 10. Or number 5, not 10.
There could be 10 items on these lists
There
because there's a lot of
could
great
easily.
breakup scenes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an excellent choice. That narrowly missed my list. I think I struggle with Miles Teller because I subconsciously like still haven't forgiven him, even though that's not him. Like I'm like, this bitch
Yeah.
broke up with Supergirl. He hurt Supergirl's feelings. Fuck you.
Yeah. And then he did a Fantastic Four movie. And so can we really forgive him?
I don't know, man. But yeah, it's an excellent scene. I agree.
No.
This is the last cliche pick on my list. It is from a film that came out in 1942 called Casablanca.
I've never heard of it.
This film is, I think, one of a select few movies that holds up as like it's kind of cliche when the critics call it timeless. But it really does feel that way. Like the comedy in it, the tragedy in it, the beautiful direction of Casablanca is really, really something, and really, really magical. And there's just something really special about it, particularly because of the lead two performances by Humphrey Bogart and Ingrid Bergman. And playing Rick and Ilsa at the very end. She's ready to leave her husband and with that leave her duty to the world for this guy, and he tells her not to. She's willing to sacrifice everything to be with him, and he's willing and and he's willing to give up the love of his life so that she doesn't have to do something that she'll regret. Like, it's just so beautiful, so brilliant. Two of the best actors of all time, in two of the most iconic reverse shot scenes of all time. It's just a fantastic scene, and it's so bittersweet because you know it's the right thing to do, but you're damn. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, yeah. I've seen that once, and when I was like 19, so I am due for a rewatch.
Yeah.
But yet that scene still stands out because it's fucking excellent.
Yeah.
A fantastic pick. And it pairs delightfully with my next one. We're going from the magical year of 42 to the beautiful year of 2014.
Ooh.
Name a more forgettable year than 2014. And you know me, I always got to throw a funny one in here. So my number 4 is 22 Jump Street when they decide to investigate other people.
I love it. I love it.
Honestly, like the series is great. Like they
Yeah.
killed it on 21 and 22 Jump Street. And it's because of scenes like this. It's just so dry. It's played so straight. There's no like obvious punchlines. It's just they play it like a normal breakup scene, but they're just detective partners. It's perfect, and I love it. And I think it shows why those movies like exceeded people's expectations, especially 22 Jump Street. It
Yeah.
should have been terrible. 21 Jump Street should have been terrible. 22 Jump Street should have been the worst movie ever made. And so I'm glad this scene exists because it reminds me about how good that movie can be.
I love it. It's an excellent choice. It's an excellent
Thank you.
choice. Oh man, I'm like reviewing the whole movie in my head because
Yeah,
it's such
now
a good
you want to
movie
talk
now.
about it next week, huh?
Yeah.
Well, maybe in a few weeks we could do 21 and 22 Jump Street. We just do back to back.
I would be down. It'd be a great
Let's do
excuse to
it.
watch them again.
Yeah.
Not that I need one. My number 3 is also from a comedy. It's a lot. It's interesting. Like it's like I think no, actually, never mind. My bad. But unlike the previous two picks, this one is, instead of being a finale breakup, it's a catalyst breakup, and it leads to one of the best American comedies of the 21st century. Man, I freaking love Legally Blonde. I rewatched it very very recently, like just like last year. Cinematic masterpiece. It's amazing, nonstop, brilliant acting from Reese Witherspoon, Selma Blair, and a bunch of others. But the scene with where so basically the premise is her boyfriend, who's going to Harvard, breaks up with her because he wants to be a senator before he turns 30, and he can't do that because he's dating a blonde and he needs to date someone serious. And she thinks that he's going to propose to her. So at the same time that he says, we're going to break up, she says, I do. And it's absolutely cringe. It's so horrible. She starts crying. She's like, what's the problem? Are my boobs not big enough? And the whole restaurant turns around and looks at her, and it's absolutely humiliating. And because of that, like, she's ditzy, but like, she's like a whatever kind of, stereotype in the beginning of the movie, but right at that point you're automatically on her side. And and you never stop rooting for her, and she surprises the audience, she surprises everyone around her in the fictional world. And it's a great scene. Warner and Elle breaking up at the beginning of Legally Blonde is an easy number 3.
Yeah, a fantastic pick. I totally forgot about it. Such a good movie. So underrated, honestly. A great pick. Great pick. My next 3, I'll be honest, cliche. We're hitting that part. Starting with number 3, it's a film we've talked about, featuring a fantastic guest. It is Eternal Sunshine of a Spotless Mind. Woo! Yeah! Woo! Yeah, it's when she comes home after drunk driving and crashing his car, and they just break up. There's not a lot. There's some like surrealist, wild shenanigans going on, like there is kind of from this point onwards, but it's mostly just shows off both talents of the two leads, the directing and the writing beautifully. It's played straight instead of being distracted by a house collapsing or something. You just get unadulterated emotions, people feeling things, and I think it's fantastic. It's the perfect counterbalance you need amongst the chaos that is the last third of this movie.
Yeah.
And so it's delightful. It's brief. It's like 2 minutes long, but it's a sad breath of fresh air,
Yeah.
that I love a lot.
So good. Excellent pick. Yeah. I considered adding Eternal Sunshine as well. As it's an amazing, like the whole movie's kind of a breakup movie, kind of breaks
Absolutely.
a big breakup scene, which I love. Like I love.
Yeah.
My number 2, it would be my number 1, but I know some like behind the scenes thing that was divulged by Seth Rogen of all people. Um, So yeah, the film Forgetting Sarah Marshall. Um, yeah, man. If you've seen the movie, you already know which scene I'm talking about. Jason Segel
Yeah.
is butt naked, dick hanging loose, and while he's naked in his own house, or his girlfriend, his beautiful girlfriend, played by Kristen Bell, breaks up with him. And so the whole movie's about him trying to forget this breakup. But what I love about it is just the weight of the humiliation of just being exposed like that. Just it's so horrible. Like I've never been like the dumps / rejections have never happened while I was naked, but I can imagine that pain, man. I can
Yeah.
feel that pain, and that he feels. It's such a great acting moment for him, even though it's not my favorite comedy movie. It's still it's still a pretty good movie, and um, uh, the only reason it's not number 1 is because Seth Rogen mentioned pretty offhandedly that he's like, I know for a fact because Jason Segel told me that he fluffed himself before starting the scene, and I was like, okay, that's kind of cheating. I think it would have felt even more vulnerable and more dark if his penis were
Yeah.
smaller.
Yeah. Put it on ice before shooting.
Yeah, man, go full Harvey Keitel and Bad Lieutenant. Just like, just let it be, man. Let it be. That's my
Yeah.
number 2.
Yeah. Did you know John Lennon was actually singing about Jason Segel's penis in Forgetting Sarah Marshall when he wrote "Let It Be"? That might be the only time I've actually really liked Jason Segel is in Forgetting Sarah Marshall.
Have you
How I
seen
Met
Freaks
Your
and
Mother,
Geeks?
he was lovable. But what?
Have you seen Freaks and Geeks?
I've seen like the first couple episodes and then like random ones throughout.
Yeah.
But I'd have to rewatch it to pass judgment on him.
Yeah.
That said, my number 2 is Brokeback Mountain.
Ouch.
Segues are weird. Here's the most tragic shit in the world. Yeah, it hurts, and it's one of the best Jake Gyllenhaal performances. Angry Jake is always fantastic. the pain and vulnerability in him and Heath Ledger's eyes is insane. The single line, "I don't know how to quit you, man," is so iconic. Yeah, it just hurts. I think this scene just hurts the most, and so I got to go with one sappy kind of romancy bad breakup scene. Not bad, but you know what I mean. Hard to watch breakup scene, and I got to go Brokeback Mountain.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, man. Very, very sad. I owe that one a rewatch too. I think I've only seen it the one time. My number one is not a bummer. It's actually really funny because I think a lot of these scenes are, yeah, pretty much all these scenes are have like a bummer tinge to them. But I chose one that was that was pretty comedic. It's from Stranger Things 3. Uh, part of the fun of Stranger Things and specifically Eleven's arc is like seeing her like learn new slang because she grew up in a lab, so she's like still learning how to talk like a normal person, and so her just kind of saying like completely out of nowhere to Mike, "I dump your ass," is so adorable. It's so adorable. It's so like out of left field, and he's like, "How did she even learn how to say that?" But like, also she dumped me. Like, what's going on? It's all the like angry, hormone infused like confusion in both of them as young teens, young preteens. It's very authentic, I think, to a kid breakup. Um, and yeah, it's both cute and funny and sad. So that's why I liked it a lot.
Yeah, fantastic pick. I totally did not think of Stranger Things at all. Um, so props to you for that one. My number one may be even more cliche than Eternal Sunshine of a Spotless Mind. I wouldn't be a white dude on a film podcast if I didn't talk about her.
Amazing.
I'm contractually obligated. It's the only thing keeping these lights on. Yeah, dude, it's just I love it. It might be my favorite voice acting like monologue of all time.
Yeah.
Scarlett Johansson fucking kills it, and Joaquin Phoenix is obviously no slouch if the camera can just hold on him for like 4 minutes straight,
Yeah.
and real close up for a lot of that. And it carries so much weight. It's tragic. It's super unique, just the circumstances of the partner leaving the other because they have to join the fucking singularity. Just dip out for that. It's wild, man, and I love it, and it makes me sad. So it's my number one.
I love it. I love it, man. It's such a good movie.
Yeah.
And yeah, dude. Heavy lists. Heavy lists.
Mhm.
I like it. I like
Absolutely.
it a lot.
That was a good top five. I think we were hitting the right notes on that one. Did you know? Did you see Spike Jonze was casted in that Charlie Chaplin movie with Tobey Maguire?
No. Wait, who's he
Did you hear
playing?
about the Charlie Chaplin movie with Tobey Maguire?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
it's Damien
Yeah,
Chazelle doing
Babylon.
Babylon. Yeah, yeah.
Hmm. I don't know who he's playing, but it was like at the bottom of like I think Consequences post. It just said Spike Jonze, and I was like, oh, all right, I'm here for it.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
I'm surprised Call Me by Your Name didn't make your list.
it was close.
Yeah.
Can't give the gays too much representation though. Uncalled for it. I'm kidding. No,
Terrible.
it was very close, but I
Yeah.
wanted to give a shout out to Whiplash because I didn't think it got enough, and then 22 Jump Street was too funny to not include. So
Yeah. Yeah. The one that very narrowly missed mine was the phone call in Ozymandias.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, damn. Yeah, that would have been good too.
yeah.
You know what
But
else narrowly missed my list? The worst person in the
absolutely.
world. Now that we're almost 25 minutes in,
Oh shit.
I think maybe we could start talking about this movie. But before we do, a dot dot dot, I have two poorly written reviews of movies that we're watching because it's funny and it makes me laugh and stuff. I feel like with new movies, we haven't gotten the quality that we come to expect
Hmm.
for this segment. They've still been great. I've still enjoyed every single time I read these,
I agree.
but it's fun to dig in a little bit. And I found some good, but also very short ones, so I wanted it. The first one comes from Muhammad Betech, saying the worst dot 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 in the world. The amount of the amount of reviews that were called the worst movie in the world through the goddamn roof. Almost half. They gave it 1 out of 10, saying this: "It's not a real film. It's not a film. It's just a random pieces of uncompleted stories. No philosophy, no drama, no music, no story. Barely worth 1 star."
Yes.
No music? There was music. That's just incorrect. You could be snarky and say no story and like try to fight your case, but no music is just wrong.
Oh man.
Yeah, but since that was short and sweet, I got another from Riodose Advogado, saying for a very specific audience, giving it a 1 out of 10. When I think of this movie, I think inaccessible. It is a boring film about a young woman who is lost. Of course she is. She is truthful portrait of a younger generation who cared more about labeling their insecurities, inventing genres, and never ending blabbing about how sensitive they are. Don't fall for these positive reviews. Go watch Sing 2, way better.
That's great.
So, Ford
Sick.
Trucks, if you would like to advertise on the podcast, we do reach your target demographic in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Reach out. We'd like to talk to you.
Yeah, man. For the second guy, I love that like the people who always complain about other people's sensitivity always sound the most like hurt by it.
Yeah, dude.
Um,
My psycho boss in Utah was like bitching about how long a car ride that he made us go on my day off was, and I called him a snowflake because he already called me. He always called me one, and the look in his eyes, I feared for my life, dude.
oh man.
Yeah,
Yeah, man. He killed you 1,000 times in his head.
he did, and almost a couple in real life.
Sheesh.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and then for the first guy, I just imagined like a guy in a market just selling barley. Barley! 1 star! Worth 1 star! Barley!
Barley worth 1 star. It wasn't even with. He added an O and an R.
So good. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I was on the late train for this one. I think I might be the last film major in the world who's seen it. Uh,
I think that's accurate. Even I saw this shit, and I don't watch new movies very well.
yeah, I was very sad to miss it in theaters, and but I the quality on Amazon was good, was good for once. So no technical things happened while I was watching it on TV. And it was cool, man. Like it's a very interesting movie. I haven't seen any of Joachim Trier's other films. I know he likes to play around with genre a lot. Um, and I know this is his third film that takes place in Oslo. He calls it retrospectively the Oslo trilogy. I've not seen the other two, but I've heard good things about both. Um, and yeah, this is a really interesting one. It's kind of a tragedy, kind of a comedy, kind of a rom com, kind of a European episodic drama. Uh, um, and I like it. I like it. I don't think I love it as much as everybody else does.
Mm.
I think the structure of the film is where it loses me.
Yeah.
Because it's like the film follows one character through basically her late 20s through her early 30s, and um, leads her to all these different realizations, leads her through all these epiphanies, through all these life changes, through all these mind changes and heart changes that she has. But I still feel like I don't really know her, and I think that is intentional. I think even the actress who is played by who is sorry, Renata Reinsve, excellent performance, one of the best performances of the previous year. I think she kills it in literally every single scene, and literally every single scene has her um, in it, and yeah, like I loved her performance. I thought she was brilliant, but I didn't feel like especially for the scenes that they want to make you cry, or they want to make you really think about life and death and mortality. Like I can't latch onto it because I don't know these people, even though I've spent so
Mm.
much time with them. And so and the cinematography by Casper Tuxen is very, very good, very, very pretty. This is a very pretty film, very technically amazing movie. Some brilliant sound design as well, uh, and some really interesting a really interesting psychedelic sequence, a really interesting surreal sequence, a really interesting kind of new wavy romance uh, sequence. But um, all these elements don't really come together because even though I love every single element individually, it kind of just doesn't really connect with me.
Yeah.
So even though I like it, I'm gonna give it. Even though I said all that, I still like it. I'm gonna overall lean positive and give it a 6.8. I think it's a very, very good movie.
Yeah, and I think those are very fair criticisms, and I think they're the criticisms I have of the movie too. For me, I think I just weighted it less. I think it just didn't quite matter as much to me because I still resonated heavily with multiple characters in this movie, and I saw people I know in characters in this movie, and so I think that it did that enough that it was
Yeah,
okay that I didn't know every detail about her. I think they do a great job introducing her. Literally, just the changing majors montage that we get for the first 5 minutes. I think that was all I needed. Like, I know a lot about that person through little bits of dialogue we get, through the voiceover, through what we actually see on screen. That I get like I got enough for me, but I still wanted more because the performance is amazing. She
yeah,
she absolutely knocked it out of the park, and it's an incredibly loving or lovable character. I think it's impossible to not watch this and like basically fall in love with her. Not like actually romantically. Like I'm not gonna I'm not
yeah,
gonna make a body pillow or anything, but like you fall in love with her and you're rooting for her and you want her to change and be better and succeed. Um, so I do want more. I'm leaving. I'm left thirsty, but I'm not like dying. I'm not parched, you know.
Yeah.
And so that's pretty much my only qualm and where I stand on it. I love the cinematography. I think the music does need work. There were some scenes where I loved it. Some scenes where I was like, this is the most bland, bland option anybody could have chosen, or just no character to it when it's such a character driven film.
Right.
And so I did think that needed work, but technically amazing, fantastically directed and written, and I'm excited to see future Trier films and past Trier films because I haven't. I've only seen this twice now. I will give it an 8.2. I'm going pretty heavy on the positive here.
Nice. Very nice. Um, so you saw this a lot earlier than me, so you've had a chance to like sit on it.
Mhm.
Like how did it compare to like the other big art house releases in 2021? Like how did it mess up your list, if it did?
Yeah, I don't know. I should have gone back and looked at my list because I don't remember. I could probably pull it up and tell you exactly
Yeah.
exactly where it fits. In fact, somewhere around 8, 9, 10, which was Dune, Inside, and Passing. I think it's probably in between Inside and Passing for me.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah, so I liked it the second time. I think um, I didn't gain much more out of it than I did the first time. Like I didn't clue into a lot of hidden details because there really aren't any.
Right.
It's a pretty straightforward film, and so I still I still felt the same weight. I think is the best compliment I could give it. I still felt moved, even though I've seen this 2 months ago ish, three
Yeah.
months ago. I think that's impressive. Like that's a pretty quick turnaround for a heavy-handed drama like this to still carry the same punch.
Good. Yeah. But yeah, I look forward to revisiting it for sure. And we can start with something that we both latched onto positively, which was the cinematography.
Hmm.
Which moments or which shots like really grabbed you, really stuck in your head and stuck themselves in your head and emphasized the characters for you.
Um, Trying to think of exact shots, but the immediate one was the stopping time sequence. But
Yeah.
that's not really. I mean, the cinematography changes because they go more handheld and move a lot faster. There is a lot of movement in this film, but it's mostly steady cam
Yeah.
and slow. So I guess there is props to that. I don't know if there was any. It falls in the category of like, I guess I could think of another movie to compare it to. Maybe Coda, where the cinematography doesn't stand out. Like it's
Hmm.
not like specific shots aren't digging themselves into my head like the way they did in Green Knight or even Teton. Um, but it's like it's good enough that I enjoy looking at it, and its composition was what I needed to tell the story effectively, basically.
Yeah, I agree. Some of the compositions that stood out to me were when they had her in center frame, like for wide
Mhm.
shots and stuff.
Yeah.
Like there's the one where it's like literally just the top of her head and then the entire cityscape and the sun's rising,
Mhm.
or the sun's setting. I think on that one. I really love that. It felt to me like I know they're completely different filmmakers, but like a much more gentle hand, uh, but like a similar approach to Lars von Trier, uh, who does use a lot of handheld in his conversations, and then during the surreal scenes, absolutely uses a tripod, a dolly, whatever. And this one felt a lot less visceral than, say, the wedding sequence in Melancholia, but I still felt the power of the handheld look in a lot of those like more sad scenes and those like one-on-one conversations between Axel and Julia. Um, but yeah, overall, I think that that kind of gentle approach to the cinematography does help the engage the audience, and it actually like because the movie um, is a lot more the story's a lot more seemingly a lot more invested in its ideas than its main character, and so I think in order to like really let those ideas come across, I think the gentler approach to the cinematography definitely helps, and definitely like um, makes it more accessible, makes it more digestible, and not in a
Yeah.
way that's like bad or spoon feedy.
Hmm.
Um, it feels like it was intentional, and it worked for me. What did you think about it during the psychedelic sequence, the mushroom trip?
I think they did it good. I don't think I've seen the visuals of a psychedelic trip topped since Midsommar.
Yeah.
I think they got it the best, and so now I'm kind of like passing it off when it doesn't quite hit that mark because I'm a snobby boy. Um, but I think it was good. I think they did a good job towing the line between surreal, but also like blatantly telling the audience that like, okay, this is gonna get surreal a little bit soon. Um, I think it helps with this type of movie because the audience isn't there for like some insane, crazy art house new wave shit. Like it's we're not here for 8.5. We're here for a love story. Um, and so I think it works with the story they're telling, and it kind of eases us into stuff like that, stuff like the stopping time scene and the other surreal scenes we see throughout the film. They never do it a lot. Like they're not super heavy with it, and I appreciated that.
Definitely, definitely. Um, I know you said you latched onto a lot of supporting characters, and you related to some of them, and you saw some of them in real life, like
Mhm.
who for example, and what did you like about the performance and stuff like that,
Yeah,
the
I
writing?
I think the other star of this movie is easily Axel, played by Anders Danielsen Lee. Um, I think he kills it, and
Yeah,
I don't think I appreciated him enough on my first watch. I think the second one really. Um, I focused more on him than on Julie the whole time, and there's a lot to him, man. He is.
yeah,
I love how much care and attention went into him, even though he's only in like 5 of the 12 chapters. There's too many chapters in this thing, but
yeah,
he's not in the entire movie, and so it's great, and you feel at home when you see him again somehow. And I think a lot of that's due to just his presence on screen, and the details they actually bothered to give him. On the other side of that coin, I think Ivan, I think was the right pronunciation.
yeah,
He I think he could have done a little more. Like I get who he is. He's in the same boat as she is, not ready to grow up and be a goddamn adult, and wants to just follow the breeze and find this new exciting thing.
yeah,
Um, and so like I get what they were trying to do with him, But I wanted more. We get a nice breakup scene between him and his girlfriend, and I like that. I think it's a good scene, but I want more. I want time to see like who he is a bit. If we're given 12 chapters, I think we could spare half of one to just show like a day in the life of that guy, just to see how he ticks, and it would have, I don't know, it would have made me understand why they did what they did more, I think.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. It's interesting. Like I found myself judging them like when you first meet them on
Hmm.
camera. Like I both Ivan and Axel have this kind of European fuckboy look uh,
Absolutely.
in their faces, but they both like the movie really takes a lot of time to reveal their vulnerabilities.
Hmm.
And I don't know what drives I'm not entirely sure if Ivan's uh, drive is clear. It's implied that he's still kind of figuring it out because so much of it was shaped by his ex. But it's clear what drives Axel. Like he is from a different generation, and so his whole path is is a kind of left is a lot more clear to him, and so I definitely related to his arc as an artist and his arc as someone kind of not uh, kind of related to someone who's confronting death, like a really slow death. Um, I've known people who have dealt with cancer, and some have survived, some have not, and it sucks. And this movie really, especially in his last monologue, doesn't really shy away from that. I appreciate that they kind of um, that they didn't approach cancer with an exploitative angle. Like it really felt like the filmmaker actually knew someone who went through that, and um, wanted to convey that person's struggle, um, and wanted to convey the pain that comes with wanting more out of life when you're so
Hmm.
close to the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Um,
I love the layers to that too. Like the scene where she walks in and he's like air drumming to music and stuff.
so
Like you
good.
see a blatant newfound appreciation for just like living in him.
Yeah.
And that's such a small, subtle way to do it that it's cool to see like them fully round him out instead of just doing this piece of the puzzle of like how he would change. They kind of added an extra little bit to it. I liked
Yeah. I liked his choice in headphones too. Like they didn't use Beats like every other
it.
rich guy.
Yeah.
Um,
They didn't
oh,
hold on the AirPod for a suspiciously long amount of time.
yeah. Well, it's actually the biodynamics,
Yeah.
and what's interesting about this headphone choice, I wouldn't have thought of this if I didn't own these headphones already. But what these are primarily used for production because they have a relatively flat curve, um, and so there's no exaggerated bass. There's no exaggerated, treble. It's you're basically listening to what you're listening to as the producer mixed it. Just
Oh,
knowing,
yeah.
and so I found that very in line with his character and his character's
Hmm.
choice because he was very much about like this is what I intended with Bobcat, and now it's being butchered by people consuming it and by people taking it further.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was a little unique detail about him that he even the way he listens to music is shaped by his personality.
Yeah.
Um,
And that's good writing directing right there. Like
yeah,
that's just a good job. Or I guess
yeah,
that
man,
could be prop department. It depends how far down the line that decision fell.
yeah, man. Definitely. We've both talked about Julia a bit, but did you have any more notes on her or Renata's performance?
Um, Not really. Without just like getting excited and naming scenes like we're about to. like, but it's not time for that. I don't think I really had much else on her specifically. I am curious. You gave it a 6. Is that all due to the structure and not fleshing her out, or not giving you enough to latch onto with her, or was there other things holding you back?
It's it's that, and like just I just felt like not even that I wanted more, but like that I wanted more connectivity between all the different elements of the movie, right? Because
Okay.
I want to
Yeah.
care about this character, but I can't find anything that makes me like I know very clearly what drives Axel. I don't know what drives her to choose creativity. What
Yeah.
I don't know how
Just
she sees the world.
being
Yeah.
shitty.
I,
That's all they really give you.
Yeah, and I understand that it's supposed to be a mystery. I understand that that's the whole point of portraying the millennial generation on film. Like you're not supposed to know because she doesn't know, but that's also kind of a cop out. Like the way to get all of these the surreal, the psychedelic, the kind of intellectual approaches to all the different themes that they take cinematically, all these different approaches would come together if I could relate to this main character more. Um,
Mhm.
and it's not that she's unrelatable because she's a woman. It's not that she's unrelatable because she's a feminist. You know, I totally like. Um, I I don't disagree with like her with what the character says all the time about that kind of thing, about what being a woman is like in the modern era, and they talk about the Me Too thing a lot. We'll get into themes soon, but um, yeah, I just I it was just a bit of a letdown, but
Yeah,
because it's
that's totally fair, I think.
yeah. So, but because everything is still like everyone's bringing their A game to this letdown, I can't like give it a 4, you know.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, yeah. Like and you also talked about the music choices.
Mhm.
Uh, what was the one that you didn't like?
It mostly came in like the saddest moments.
Mm,
And it was never the soundtrack. It was always the score that it was just literally like minor key violins. And I'm like, for a movie that's like trying to portray this like original character who you're like magnetized to, it's just a disservice to have such forgettable music and
yeah,
just like such nothing like here's a hint at what emotion we want you to feel audience type. um I think it just missed the mark for me. I think it wasn't like egregiously bad. It's not like out of key and like stumbling over itself. It's just boring. It's just nothing.
yeah. Um, that could lead us into our next thing though, because they you know, they talk about subverting genre and subverting rom-com and all that stuff, and subverting tragedy. What did you think about that angle in this movie, and like how it approaches those small subversions along the way, both in its writing and in its characterizations?
Yeah. It's tough because when I'm watching this, I'm not really thinking of it as subversion. I'm thinking of it more as like pulling the right keys for or the right beats from different genres
Yeah,
and putting those in. Like it's not like there are like a chapter will be a romantic comedy, and then within that chapter it stays pretty true to romantic comedy, but then the
yeah,
next chapter will be something completely different, and that's when the hard switches. And I don't think the switch was ever when they were like committing to a genre. um But that's just weird nitpicky because it's still, by doing that, you're subverting every genre you put in because the next one, the audience doesn't know when it's switching until you put the title card up. So like you're still hitting them with some inherent subversion by like just changing genres, but that's a bit semantic.
No, yeah, for sure, for sure. I yeah, I agree with that. Like honestly, like I felt that especially in the cheating chapter and in the others chapter one, definitely. Another, I guess, big theme is the highlighting the differences in the millennial generation between them and the previous people. So what kind of did that did they nail it as far from what you could see or um,
Yeah, I think so. Because every time they like tried hitting that point, I was like, oh, I've been in that situation.
yeah.
Like when they're at the family gathering, and they're like, oh, you're not used to all these kids, I bet. And I'm just like, okay, yeah, I'm younger than you. Like that's all you're saying.
Yeah.
And so I felt a lot of that, and the scenes where they like what they want to say is very obvious throughout this movie, and they always have the scene dedicated to that and almost only that. And so the scenes where they're like millennial,
Yeah.
millennial over here, like you know when they're doing it, and I think every time they did a good job making me relate to it and making me cringe and feel for her.
Definitely. Definitely. Um, yeah, I agree. I work in an office where I'm the youngest person, and it's very interesting sometimes. Sometimes the attitude is like, "Oh, cool, this guy's actually not that bad for someone his age," and sometimes the attitude is like, "You're 25, fuck you." Um,
Makes sense.
um, so yeah, I definitely thought that was interesting, but I also thought it was kind of cool the way that her and Axel related to each other, despite that gap. Um,
Yeah.
and that was one of the key things that kept me invested in those chapters, in the first six chapters,
Mhm.
um, because it's such a weird thing. Like, you know, older men and younger women getting together is nothing new. It's been happening for forever. Um, but uh, it is weirder now because of how like psychologically screwed up our generation is, and how we're kind of being left behind in between the modern and the past. Um, uh, there was also speaking of modern, very heavy references to Me Too and um, to what was going on uh, a couple years ago and is kind of still going on now about the current state of like feminism and all that stuff, especially in chapter three where she writes a blog post and in um, chapter nine where Axel kind of very poorly defends his art. Um, how did you feel about those two and their inclusion in the film and their execution?
Yeah, I think it was done real well. I think they nailed the rhetoric first of all. Like
Yeah,
the writing for that was spot on with those groups. Um, it reminded me of the readings in my women and gender studies class at San
yeah,
Francisco. And like I think they were good about not being like it's so easy to be either feminists or annoying. Let's make fun of them and have them go that route and have her be
right,
like way over the top about it, or have worship the ground they walk on, and everything this person says is gospel type, where they push their agenda too hard within the film. And they did a good job doing like the middle ground, where it's here's this character trait, here's some things we want you to think about. You don't have to believe them. See, look, one of our leads doesn't believe them, but we do, and so here you go. And I think that was an excellent way to do it. I don't see it as like pushing an agenda as much as I made that sound like. But I think it was well done. I think it was executed good.
Yeah. They definitely, I agree. Like they avoid the very generic thing that a lot of Hollywood movies do, where they just kind of say "Me Too," or they'll say
Yeah.
something offhanded about Twitter and the Twitter mob for no
Like,
reason at all.
man, am I right?
Right? It's so bizarre how this idea is like can that's so complicated um
Yeah.
and layered gets so diluted by cinema, which is supposed to be a complex art form. But I'm happy that this movie didn't do that, that they actually took time, especially in that chapter 9, to kind of test the idea itself without, like you said, without preaching. I, you know, it is, Axel's defense is a valid defense against feminist critique, but on the other hand, like his defense like devolves into attacking the person critiquing him, and that
Yeah.
happens a lot. That
It
happens.
happens 95% of the time, probably.
Yeah, and it doesn't, and the result is that nothing gets constructed, no new ideas are put forward, and it's really, it really, like, I think realistically represents the tragedy of this cultural debate that's going on, where it's like, uh, we're it's less about protecting women and more about being right, um, and um, and so I definitely I felt that for sure. I felt that, and I don't know if that's what Julia was feeling at the time. I'm sure she was. She felt conflicted as well watching that on TV, like this person that she loves, kind of dig his own grave, both literally and figuratively. And yeah, I thought that was interesting. The movie also talks about family as a big theme. The primary conflict between Julia and Axel is that one wants to start a family and the other does not. She has conflict with her mother and father that is pretty much unresolved for most of the movie. Um, uh, she has conflict with members of Axel's family and his friends as well. And yeah, what did you think about the way the movie talked about family and stuff?
I think they did a good job kind of showing it from every angle. Like literally every viewpoint on family you can have is almost in here. You got the millennial who doesn't want kids. You want somebody who does want kids. You've got whole groups of families getting together. You've got friend families of people who are like as tight as a normal family would be. And so it's cool to see like every type of family be represented, because a lot of this movie is Julie finding who her family is. And I think she has family in all of them. And I think that's kind of the problem, is that she's like torn between everything at all times. And so it was good that that they showed everything, and that they didn't like, I don't know, push one thing only.
Yeah, yeah. I wish they zeroed in more on her parents' divorce,
Yeah,
because that could have been my nugget. That could have been the
could have
little
been.
thing that's like, there's the key. There's the key
And
to
maybe
her.
it is.
Maybe it is, but we didn't see it.
No.
I do like the scene with her dad. I thought that was so sad.
Yeah.
The same jacket as his stepdaughter, the same the fact that he chose a sports game over her birthday, like, oh, it's horrible. And
Mhm.
and you can feel her pain too. It's really something. But yeah,
Yeah.
those are all my questions. Overall, I like the movie a lot. I'll probably watch it again in a few months or maybe a year. Uh,
Mhm.
but uh, but not breaking my 2021 list for sure.
Yeah, it dented but not broke mine.
Yeah.
I enjoy it a lot. I think it was endlessly entertaining,
Yes.
and relatable, and I had a good time watching it twice. So that's all I can ask for. What are some of your favorite scenes?
Well, I'm glad you asked.
Bet you didn't see this one coming, huh?
The breakup sequence between Axel and and our main character is very heartbreaking and very real. The back and forth, the anger, the sadness, the confusion, the clarity, and then back to confusion.
Mhm.
It's the pettiness, the the genuine conflict between concern and uh, and frustration is so real, and so uh, yeah, it felt like I was there, man, and um, it's not made the goodbye sex it's not even like a band-aid. It feels like it's like they just stopped at one stitch and then left the rest of the wound
Yeah,
open. It's really it was is really heartbreaking. Um,
yeah,
Stopping time was good. It was given away by the trailer, but and so I was
yeah.
excited to see that and its implementation of the thing. I appreciated the metaphor. Uh, um, it just it's so spectacular, but it just didn't feel like it belonged in this movie.
No,
Um,
no, that's
and
when they
that's
go a little too different.
yeah, and like that's and therein lies my critique again, my big critique again. But it's still very beautiful, beautifully staged, beautifully shot. Um, I also like um, the sense of dread that I picked up from chapter two, cheating.
Mm,
Like, because I like her and Axel together. I was surprised at how much I liked her and Axel together, and then all of a sudden she's about to destroy it all, and like they get closer and she gets closer and closer and closer to Ivan, and it's and they keep freaking pushing that line, and I'm like, ah, oh, okay, ah, oh, okay, ah, oh, okay, over and over and over again, and I thought that was beautifully edited sequence. Um, and the the her not the final visit, but when she when she first visits Axel, that the whole sequence of them walking around the grounds of the hospital,
mm,
going outside and smoking and stuff like that, and then her stumbling on him while he's playing the drums, while he's pantomiming the drums. I thought that was really beautiful. So I
yeah,
think those what's that those three scenes were the ones that stood out to me the most for sure.
yeah. Can you tell me I'm gonna be a good mom? Like,
Yeah,
oh, that hits.
that was great.
Um, yeah, you took most of mine. I had that one marked, and the uh, the cheating sequence. It's just such a infuriating, but like weirdly almost not endearing, but like they're both being cute. So
Yeah.
like you're like invested, but like you hate what you're watching. It just toes the line of repulsive and adorable.
Beautiful
And I like
tagline for the DVD cover.
yeah, put that in the description. Yeah, and I like it a lot. And then afterwards, the shot of her walking to the sunrise home is great because it's beautiful, and you know that like it's gonna be weird that you were at a party with him, left early, and then got home after. Like
Yeah.
it's gonna come up. Um, And so it's a great reflective moment for the character and the audience. So I'll include that shot as my own unique favorite scene, so we don't have duplicate. Um, I agree. The stopping time sequence is a little much, and I think because it was in the trailer, I was like, it fits in the film. I know it's in the film. And I think that just was the psychological thing that I didn't really dislike it for.
Yeah.
You literally took every single one you mentioned. Was every single one I wanted.
I'm sorry.
It's rude of you. I do that every week to you, so it's only fair. But I think the part where I like weirdly probably the saddest part for me was watching her dad dodge the questions about the article, and that whole conversation is painful. And I think it makes you like Axel a lot because of the way he handles it afterwards. I think it makes you side with her completely over her parents, which is such a hard twist because you look like her mom is great. Her mom's always so supportive, like, yeah, you can drop out of all these majors we've been paying for. And so I'm pro mom, but the dad is heartless. And so you feel for her. You feel for her a lot in that moment. So those are going to be my faves.
Hell yeah, hell yeah. I rented this on Amazon Prime for $5.99. I don't know if there's another streaming place where you guys can access it.
Pretty much all of them. It's on
Okay.
YouTube. It's on Apple. It's on everything, I think.
Sweet. Yeah, it's definitely worth checking out. If there are still screenings of it, I would say I would still recommend you watch it at least. Thank you for doing this, Drew. Appreciate it.
Yeah, of course.
Cool. All right, folks. You can follow us on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, and follow us on your favorite podcast streaming platforms, wherever you're listening to right now. Hit the subscribe thingy. Or the follow thingy. I don't know which thing you're on, but SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube are the big ones so far. So thank you to everyone who's listening right now, and yeah, we'll see you guys next week for a different movie, a newer movie, but a very very interesting turn, especially after something like this. Yeah. Anyway, we love you. Goodbye.